And I'm just getting some things set up real quick. Maybe. Okay, welcome all to this session on the art of copying, moving course content from here to there. My name is Douglas Hemphill. I am one of the campus instructional designers, and joining me today is Carrie Mocyk, our other campus instructional designer. And we're going to talk about copying things, but in a good way. So no copyright lawsuits, none of that stuff. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. So first, we're just going to talk about copying your entire course. This is what the vast majority of folks do, and it is very simple. I simply go into my course, and the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that it's an empty course, so I should not see anything in the table of contents. It's always worth checking just to make sure you're in the right place. Then I'm going to go to Course Tools and Course Admin, Import, Export, Copy Components. I'm going to search for offerings, which will give me a pop-up page that I don't think you can see because I keep doing my screen sharing wrong. Try that. And here, if you aren't teaching many courses, you can leave that blank and just hit search. But I teach a lot of courses, or at least that's what Brightspace thinks I do. So I'm just going to grab one in particular, select it, add selected. It's going to tell me what course I checked, and then I just hit copy all components. And it's going to go on its way.
I can't look at this and copy it down.
Sorry, what?
You're going kind of fast. I can't get all this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so what I did was I went to course admin and I did import, export, copy components. And then I did search for offering, which gives me my pop-up window. And I can either just search, which will give me everything, or I can search for a specific course. Then I just double check, okay, yes, I want it from this semester. So this would be 2022 fall. And I hit add selected. And then it's going to say, okay, yes, this is the course you selected. Do you want it? Yes, I do. And I would hit copy components. And you can either stay on the page and wait for this message to appear that says copy completed, or you can just come back at a later point in time. And Gwen, you're always going to want to be in the empty course. So you're going to be in the course that you want the material to end up in when you do the copy process. Now, you do want to give this a couple minutes, especially if a lot of people are copying, like at the beginning of a semester, this can take a little bit. What you don't want to do is say, oh, gee, I think my copy failed. I'm going to redo it. That is how you duplicate all the content in your course, and that can become a real mess. So in general, if you have any problems with the copy process, it just doesn't seem to work or whatever, come talk to us, drop a ticket into the help desk. We'll look at it and we'll figure out what happened and what's going on, and we will fix it for you. But that's basic copying. What I want to look at now is what happens if I just want one particular thing. I don't need the entire course. Maybe I just want my course information folder. So I can drag that over and use that content and repurpose it. Or maybe I just want one particular assignment. In that case, I'm going to go through a very similar process to start. I'm going to go to Course Tools, Course Admin, and import, export, copy components again. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to search for an offering. And I'm going to add it. But this time, instead of copying all components, I'm going to select specific components to copy. And now what this does is it pulls up everything that is in my course. So I want to grab some stuff from content, and I'm going to grab something from discussion as well. Now, the next thing is, you see, do I want everything? No, I don't want everything. I want to get specific selected items. So now I'm going to hit continue again, and it's going to walk me through each of these. So the first thing I'm seeing is select discussions, forums, and topics to copy. So I'm going to expand this just to see what's inside these and select whatever I feel is appropriate. Now, one thing to be aware of is that I am only copying the discussion here. I am not copying the link to the gradebook. So if I do it this way, I'm going to need to go into the gradebook and relink this after it's copied. I usually prefer doing it this way because I don't like copying things into the gradebook and fixing it after the fact. I prefer having the item in the course, then adding it into the gradebook. But after I do this, I'll show you how to do the whole thing at one time, if that's your preference. So I'm going to continue. And now it's going to ask me, okay, well, what do you want from your course content? Well, I'm going to grab this missed work item. And again, be aware that if there's stuff in here that like assessments or quizzes or anything like that, that will not be copied over. You'll get a broken link error. This will only copy informational items. So what we would call course files, uploaded files, web links, that kind of thing. And I'm going to continue. It's going to ask me, do I want to offset the dates? Again, I find this far more troublesome than just changing them when they're where I want them to be. So I'm just going to click finish, and it's going to go off on its merry way and do its thing. Now, let's say I wanted to be a little bit more comprehensive than that. So I'm going to go back and copy another package. And same thing, I am going to select my components. And this time, I'm still going to go into content. But I also happen to want an assignment that is in Module 1. And I want that grade to come over. So now what I have to do is just line up all my ducks. So the first thing it's going to ask me is, what grade item do I want? Well, I want assignment 1. Then when I continue, it's going to ask me, well, what assignments do you want? Well, I want assignment 1. And then it's going to ask me, okay, well, what content do you want? In this case, I don't remember what module assignment 1 was in, so we're going to pretend sample assignment is assignment 1. So basically, I have to select it across all 3 of those layers. And then when I copy it over and finish, it will have the assignment in the content folder where it's supposed to be, in the course tools assignment aggregator, and in the gradebook. But again, I usually find it easier to just grab the individual item I want. If it's content item, I'll just grab the content item. If it's an assessment, I'll just grab that individual assignment, get it into the new course, and then drag and drop it wherever it needs to go. Now, there's also a different type of copying, which is quiz question copying. So in this case, I have a question library, but it is only for the course that I am in. Now, I do have the ability through that copy tool that I just showed you to copy my entire question library. It is one of the options, but I can also, I can find the setting I want. Right. I can also make local copies of my tests. So let's say I want to have just a that I really like the instructions that I wrote for test 1. I can just make a copy of that test and it will immediately give me that. Then I can just clear out the questions, tweak whatever instructions I want, and go to town and creating a new test. So that's kind of a different type of copying. So again, this is a fairly straightforward task. It's just being aware of that you can do this individual level of copying and that and how to do it. And there is literature on how to do this on our help page at oswego.edu/DLE. Or you're always welcome to just drop us a line through help@oswego.edu and we'll send you a link to the documentation. So are there any questions on that?
You had mentioned, I think, that you didn't recommend to offset the dates, to just, you have to go in and do them individually?
So there's a tool called the date management under course administration, manage dates. And I prefer to use this tool because I can look at the entire course, or I can just look at my assignments. A lot of it comes down to almost invariably when I use offset for dates, I make a mistake and it's off by 1 day, one way or the other. And it's fairly easy to make that error. And so I end up fixing the dates anyways. So usually I just go in here and then I see it in context. I think I have some more discussion dates. Oh, well, I don't have any dates, but I can just go in here and look at my dates in context. And if I need to adjust a date, I can do it on the fly through here really easily. So if you want to try using the bulk offsetting the dates, you certainly can. Like if you know you're moving content that was done in 2023 to from spring 2023 to spring 2024 and you just want to push it forward 365 days, you certainly can, and that can save you some effort because then you don't have to fix the year, you only have to tweak the days. But again, it's I just, in my experience, I almost always end up back in this screen tweaking the dates anyways, so I don't bother using the bulk offsets.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Other questions?
I had done the general, right, the basic copy for one of my courses, so I left the second one till after this session. I don't want everything to be available. The first time I did the copy, everything was, viewable to students, so I had to go in and one at a time and make them not available. Is there a way to not have to do that one at
So
a time?
there's not a bulk option for making things invisible. The closest thing is the hide function at the module level.
Yeah,
So if on the left-hand side I click a module, I can just click the little eyeball. And that will hide everything in the module. And as long as you don't have too many modules, you can just go down the line and do it. The other option is using the date management tool and setting everything to a future date, then adjusting the dates as you have the time
right.
and need. And that in that case, I would just set it to all. And just use the super check mark. And I wouldn't use bulk offset dates. I'd use bulk edit dates. And then I would just set everything to start in, let's say, 2027 and to end in 2028. If I did this though, this can be confusing to students, so I would change the setting to completely hide the stuff so they aren't seeing these odd dates showing up, and then just save it. And what did I do wrong? Oh, no. Not try. Oh, something already had a due date, and that's why it's not happy.
Could you just go back to the module where, I mean, I had looked at the modules to try to find how to hide, the module itself, and for some reason I didn't find it. So could you just show that one more time? How to hide
Yep.
the module?
So when you click on a module on the left, up in the right-hand corner, you
Okay,
should see something
hold
that
on.
looks like a little eyeball, and you just click it and then click it again, and that'll change it to hidden.
Okay,
And you'll know it's hidden because it's got the little icon
yeah,
underneath it.
okay, I'll, for that. So I was looking for it over on the left side to try to hide it. I didn't realize it was over there.
Yeah, they stuck stuff in some odd spots. It's also available from the pull down menu. It's this make visible to users. And if it's made visible to users, then you can change it to hide from users.
Okay, all right.
Doug, I have a question. You
Sure.
said you could consult the digital learning environment page on the campus website. I see Brightspace there, Brightspace training, Brightspace facts. If I'm trying to find exactly how to do this, if I've like lost my notes from today or forgot what we did, where should I go in here?
So it's going to be under help and support. And you just got to scroll down past the Zoom hours and you'll get into documentation. And this one in particular, I think, is under course management. Yeah, copying content to another course or copying individual content to another.
Okay, so it's way down.
Yeah, eventually we're going to try to get these set up as knowledge-based things so that they'll be a little easier to access, but at the moment it unfortunately is just a long list of the documentation that we most commonly share out to faculty.
Okay, that's great.
And this should have everything that I talked about today. Both for just general course copy and for, whoops.
Okay.
And for copying the individual content. Okay, so that wraps up our time thank you all so much for putting up with Carrie and I throughout this morning, for those of you who attended more than one session. And one last time, if you need any help, you can always drop a line to help@oswego.edu, or again, you can go to oswego.edu DLE and just click on help and support. And our Zoom office hours are right there along with the link. Just be aware that this is a authenticated link, so you do have to sign in through SSO with your Oswego email credentials.
Okay, well, I have a question. I'll be signing in around sometime between 1 and 3. So some questions about Zoom. So I'll see you again later.
I'll be here.
All right, bye.
Bye all. Thanks so much again, Maggie.
Yeah, thank you.